Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today. This is the Magical Herbalism Mentorship. I am your spiritual guidance counselor, the Garden Goddess, and today we'll be talking about the moon. So I'm just going to be sharing my screen with you all right quick, and we will get started. Okay, so present, and let's go. So today's class will be talking about the moon. This one was a bit tricky for me because the moon comes in like 7 different phases. And today I'll just be touching on a few, which is the main ones that you and I work with, which is the full moon, the new moon, and then I'm going to be adding in 3 other ones. So today I wanted to talk about the connection between herbs and the moon. A lot of people don't know that there is a correlation between herbs and the moon because prior to our calendars, prior to our phones, a lot of farmers or those that grew produce and grew their own herbs relied solely on the sun and the moon to know when to plant their seeds, when to water their plants, when the harvest was going to come for all their hard work in taking care of and nurturing their farms and their plants. And so I wanted to first discuss the powers of the moon and why, so many people love the moon. And that's because astrologically the moon is associated with the deepest parts of ourselves. And those parts of ourselves can't always be easily described. They're the vulnerable sides of who we are behind the mask that we show to people, behind the mask that we show to our loved ones and friends. They are our most, what I like to say, our most purest aspects of ourselves, our most vulnerable, our most sensitive aspects of ourselves. I like to think of that side of us as like newborn babies. We're really fragile in that area. We're really soft. We're really, some of us are still naive in certain areas of our lives in our subconscious mind, because we don't have all the knowledge of the earth and we're still learning. And so our sun sign or our outer shell or the skin of who we are is what we showcase to the world. But our moon signs and the moon aspects of who we are our shadow sides. It's our spiritual nature, our subconscious minds, and the unseen of society. And so, scientifically, though, the moon has a strong gravitational pull that causes the changes within our tides and oceans. And that's the connection that the moon has with Earth. But if we can understand that the moon has this strong gravitational pull to affect our tides and seas, we should also know that we are made up of majority water. We are made up of, I believe, about 60 to 80% water. And so this means that if the moon has this ability to pull our tides and oceans and seas, why is it not able to pull on us? And usually it does. If you're someone that believes in these spiritual practices, then you believe that the moon has some sort of effect on you and I, which is why we work with the moon, whether it's the new moon, the full moon, the eclipse, the waxing moon, the waning crescent, and the things go on and on and on. And so it's safe to say that the moon has some sort of power over human beings and how we feel and how we interact with one another, and even our animals. The moon has a great effect on how we all exchange connection. And so when we're thinking about the moon, one of the things that we can learn about the moon is that it operates on its own time and there is a time for everything. Just because the moon is out at night doesn't mean you necessarily need to work with it. And as we learned about and as we see all the different phases of the moon, one of the lessons it teaches us is about timing, that everything has a purpose, everything has its own rhythm and time. And so we don't always need to do magic under the new moon. We don't always need to do magic under the full moon. Sometimes we need to rest. Sometimes we need to reflect. And so not a lot of people talk about the timing of the moon, but timing is important because there is time for everything. There is time that we operate in this physical plane. And then there's time that we don't operate in, which is on God's time. And so when we're thinking about magic and working with the moon, we need to understand, is this the right time? We need to ask ourselves, is this the right time to be doing our magic? Is this the right time to be doing anything? Because just like the farmers, there was a time for us to plant seeds and hope and pray over our produce and hope that we have a good season. And then there was a time for harvest where all of our hard work for all the seeds that we planted, all the watering, all the fertilization that we did for our plants, there was a time for them to come to harvest. And so you're not supposed to plant your seeds for fruit in the winter, right? That's timing. You're not supposed to just plant your seeds whenever. You're not just supposed to water your fruits whenever. There's a time and place for everything. And the same goes for your magic. And so I wanted us to talk about the lunar cycles and magical timing. And so one of the ways that we can study the moon and how it operates is by studying the tides of our own waters on Earth. And that is, the rhythm of the moon can be visualized through the rhythms of the tides. I don't know about you, but I grew up where whenever I would go to the beach or I would go to big bodies of water, I was always told that never go swimming in the ocean at night, because this is when the waters are at its strongest. Because in the daytime, things are very clear. You can see everything. The water isn't as strong as it would be at night. They usually called it, where I grew up, like the red tides. This is when the moon is really pulling on the water and making it extremely strong and sometimes overwhelming, and that may not be safe for swimming. And so the same can be said when we're thinking about the rhythm of the moon. When we're thinking about in a spiritual aspect, there are times when the moon is out and it has a really strong gravitational pull. That is when the energy in the room is very, very sensitive, and that makes it easy to work with in a way where you'll have that power that you can have access to easier, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be easy to manifest, because just because the energy in the air is sensitive doesn't give us the green light to just do work. Sensitivity in the air doesn't give us green lights to do anything. It just lets us know that there is a heightened vulnerability that is occurring within the energetic field, and that can either be a good thing or that can be a bad thing. And so we can think of these changes in the moon by looking at these two opposite ends of the moon, which is the full moon and the new moon. So when we're thinking about the full moon, we think of a time of harvest, a time of celebrating what we already have. And then when the new moon occurs, we can think of that as setting intentions for the next cycle. And so both of these two things are different aspects, different rhythms of the moon. We can kind of think of the new moon as like the beginning of a song. When we're listening to music, we have that introduction. And then by the full moon, we can think of that in, as far as music goes, as like the bridge of the song. Like we're nearing the end, we're hitting our highest peak energetically within this cycle of the moon. And this is when we're going to get all that juice, all that goodness. We're hitting that bridge of the song, which is usually like the best part of music, is the bridge. So we can think of the lunar cycle and magical timing in that way. The rhythms of the tides, which in a way is creating its own song. And the new moon is the beginning of the song, the introduction, that beat, the drums, the guitar, maybe like the first verse of a song. And then we can think of the new moon as the bridge of the song nearing the end. And this is the song, and this is the cycle of moon cycles, the cycle of the moon, if you will. And so I wanted to emphasize that there is a season for magic that we do, and then there is a season for rest. And so when you are dealing with herbal magic, it is always best to work with herbs that are in season, that align with the season of the moment of the time. So if you're in, if it's summertime, it's good to work with summer herbs, because this is the environment that they thrive in. This is where they're at their most powerful. This is when they're at their peak. But it's also good not only to do magic with seasonal herbs that correlate with the season, but it's also good to align ourselves with the seasons in itself. I always say that you should not operate on society's timeline or society's calendar. Just because it's Christmas time and everyone is out shopping doesn't necessarily mean you need to be working yourself to death to align with this made up systematic holiday for you to just shop in and make our society even richer and the poor even poorer. It's always good to align yourself with the seasons, because the seasons will tell you when to go, when to stop, and when to slow down. So for me, as a priestess, as an earth priestess, I like to say, or earth stewardess, I align myself with earth. I align myself with the timing of the earth, because that is really where I thrive. That is really where my magic thrives. It thrives with nature. I align myself with nature, and I allow nature itself to tell me when to go, stop, slow down. And I highly encourage you guys to even just experiment with that. What will it be like for you if you align yourself with the seasons? And so I wanted to go through the seasons one by one and tell you all during that season what work you should be focusing on and how to align yourself with that particular season. So winter is the most common season and the most busiest season for so much of us, because the holidays are usually occurring around this time. We have Christmas, we have Thanksgiving, we have New Year's. This is the height of, I know, American society, when we are working our most, getting our overtime to make the most money so we can spend it on other people. But seasonally, winter is all about rest. It's about aligning yourself with nature and reflecting and rejuvenating and reconciling with ourselves, looking back on the year, looking back on all the work that we have done, and reflecting on it, and all the pieces of ourselves that we may have broken away from or given away to other people. We can reconcile all those things and come home to ourselves during this time. And so wintertime, I've noticed, especially during winter solstice, is a time where people like to do money magic, because the Lionsgate portal is open, or the winter solstice portal is open around this time. And they feel the need to call in abundance. But the best magic to do in the winter time is nothing. The best magic to do is to work on yourself and reflect on yourself and do that really deep, hard inner child work, and reflecting on where you want to go next, who you are in this moment, what part of you needs to be molded, what part of you needs to be malleable, what parts of you needs to be flexible, and really begin to shed unnecessary layers or necessary layers for your growth. Shedding your skin, shedding old habits, old ways of thinking. A lot of people believe that in the wintertime, everything dies. The snow is out, all the leaves have fallen by this point. We're not seeing any flowers, any bees, any hummingbirds. And so it's easy to assume during the winter time that everything is dead, but that is not true. In the wintertime, nothing dies. The roots of these plants just go deeper. Again, nothing dies in the winter. The roots just go deeper. And so when you align with nature, then you will understand that even you, nothing in you is dying in the wintertime, although you may deal with seasonal depression, or although you may be sad. This is a time for you to go deeper into your roots, go deeper into who you are and what it is that you wish for yourself, and your practice. And so wintertime is all about reflection. And even within plants and nature, they are in a time of hibernation, a time of reflection, a time of restoration. And so when we are thinking about magic, the best thing to do is nothing. It's allowing ourselves to rest and rejuvenate and reconcile with ourselves, and prepare for the next step of our lives. Right. And so the next season is springtime, which is one of my favorite times of the year. And how we align ourselves magically in this is by cleaning. Springtime is all about cleansing. It's all about shedding all of those old layers in the wintertime. It's kind of like exfoliating all those those leftover skin particles from the winter and embracing ourselves for the new. So the best way to align yourself with the spring is by cleaning out your home, cleaning out all of your sacred spaces, deep cleaning your altars, deep cleaning your room, deep cleaning your car, and most of all, deep cleaning yourself, eating healthy foods, detoxifying your body. And that can happen through a fast. That's wonderful. Usually Ramadan happens during this time. A lot of spiritual fasts happen during the springtime. But your fast can include food, but just healthier foods, maybe salads and fruits and smoothies. But springtime is the time for making room for abundance. And so a lot of flowers are usually coming out during this time, and it's a great season to utilize flower essences and working with tulips and lilies and gardenias. A lot of feminine, as we have learned from previous classes, a lot of feminine herbs will help us during this time. It's a lot of nurturing during this time. It's a lot of comfort and taking care of ourselves, a lot of self-care, a lot of self-love during this time is great magic to utilize and just incorporate within your practice during this time. So the best magic to do would be cleansing, doing a lot of spiritual baths, doing a lot of head cleansings, not a lot, but doing a spiritual bath, doing head cleansings, doing a lot of purification work, foot baths, prayer washes, which is what I like to call a wash for your hands before you touch any spiritual work or tools. Upgrading your altars during this time, getting new picture frames for your ancestors, getting new bowls for your offerings, really making room for abundance and joy to occur in your life. And so I like to say this is a time for heart awakenings. This is a time for you to really put your energy into doing things that is going to make your heart happy, because your heart is the most purest, most beautiful aspect of who you are. And so leading with your heart during this time, I think, is imperative. Transitional workings, which is just workings to transition you out of old ways, old timelines, old paradigms that you were a part of, and stepping into new timelines. And what do I mean by this? This is a great time that if you're an entrepreneur, doing workings to help you with your business. This is a great time if you're someone that's looking for a new relationship or new friendships, doing work to call in those new relationships. Also curating a spiritual regimen and developing disciplines for your practice is essential during this time. This is the time for an energetic new year. This is the energetic new year. So there's a lot of newness that is occurring. In society, the new year happens in the wintertime, and this is when we're supposed to be resting. And this is when usually people are like, I have all these New Year's resolutions, and they're trying to get in the gym in January, when really, girl, like, or guy, you should be chilling and preparing for spring, when you can really get out there and do some, hardcore action. And then we have the summertime, which is activation central. During this season, it's a time for harvest. It's about going outside and experiencing joy. It's about engulfing yourself in the seasonal foods and going with the flow. A lot of these different seasons, a way you can align yourself with them is by eating seasonal foods. It's about eating those vibrational foods that match with the season. And so I highly recommend that you all look into intentional eating, as well as looking into seasonal foods for that time frame in your city or in your state or country, and aligning yourself with the season by eating those seasonal foods. And so summertime is great for activation work. This is a great time to really go out there and do some hard hitting magic. So money work, creative work, work for your business, work for other people. This is a great time to really just do heavy magic. If you're someone that loves doing magic, the summertime is a great time for that. And so I love utilizing a lot of spices, a lot of herbs that are like cinnamon, a lot of peppers during this time, a lot of, I'm thinking of how I cook. So paprika, garlic, cinnamon, cayenne pepper, um, ginger, a lot of activating, a lot of fire, or masculine herbs, as we learned before. Masculine herbs, these hard hitting, powerful herbs are really great during the summertime because the summer is all about heat, going outside and just doing the damn thing. So doing your work and aligning yourself with summer, then putting in or utilizing a lot of your energy during the summertime is a great way to align yourself with the season. And doing magic that is hard hitting, I want to say fire governing, but we're not going to learn about the elements until next semester. Um, but masculine herbs, herbs that are ruled by the sun, are really great to use during the summertime. Herbs that are governed by Jupiter are great to use during the summertime, or even, dare I say, Mercury. It's really fun, really activating work and aligning yourself with the season. You'll have a lot of fun during the summertime because winter, we rested. Spring, we disciplined ourselves and we prepared ourselves for the next step. And then summer, we got out there and we got all that action. The next one is fall. Fall is a great way to get ready for transitions. This is solely a season of transitions, as we can see in nature. This is usually when the leaves are turning different colors and it's getting cooler outside and we're preparing for the next phases of our life. And so if you're someone that lives a fast-paced lifestyle, slowly transitioning into a slower paced living season is really good to have during the fall time. So it doesn't mean you have to go completely slow in life. It just means you need to slow down a bit, and begin journaling how you feel and what you feel called to do. It's usually in the fall that we start to feel these pulls for the next chapter in our lives, of maybe a career change or a new relationship or a new habit that we need to pick up on, because the fall is all about transitions and getting ready for the great shed, but not doing it quite yet. It's just preparing ourselves for a growing pain that is about to occur. So during the fall, it's essential to be surrendering in this moment because you may not feel comfortable. You may feel ungrounded in this time because different things are coming up. And also the seasons are changing, and this can affect your physical and mental health, which is a prime time for you usually to get sick. And so it's really best to work with herbs that are warm in heart, and that are good for your stomach and good for your mind. And so the best magic to do would be protection work, would be work that helps with healing any inner wounds, healing any traumas, healing anything that is coming up during this time. Also, fall is a great time to focus on mental health spell work. If you're someone that suffers with seasonal depression, and which is really, really common, especially during this pandemic, it's really good to focus on your mental health during the fall time. And so fall is one of my favorite seasons. Spring and fall are one of my favorite seasons because both of those are transitional seasons. Spring is all about transitioning and preparing for the new, and fall is about transitioning and getting rid of the old. They're just two different types of transitional seasons. And so they can be uncomfortable at times if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention to how your mind, body, and spirit feels during that time. As you guys can see, as I'm talking about these seasons, I'm not really mentioning herbs because when you align yourself with nature, you'll find herbs that want to assist you along this path in that season. And so the more you align yourself with nature, the more it's going to be easier to work with herbs because you're on the same time frame, you're on the same timeline, you're on the same energetic wavelength. And so working with the herbs of the season, aligning yourself with the season, eating foods with the season will align you with your herbal magic, and and enhance it in a way that you may not even have imagined or even thought of. These simple things really transform your relationship with earth, because you start to realize that you are not too far from the earth. You are not too far from God, who created the earth, that is a part of the earth. And this helps you with your magical workings, because magic is just an extension of who you are. And so the more you are aligned, the more your magic is aligned. So I want to talk to you all about the growth cycle. So when we are thinking about the moon, as I said before in the beginning of this lecture, the moon has often helped farmers and those that care for their plants help prepare for the season and let us know what cycle the plants will be in. So a certain moon governs a time for planting seeds, and a different cycle of the moon governs a time for when we should be watering our seeds. Another phase within the moon tells us when the seeds should be blossoming into the fruit or the flower. And then a final phase of the moon will tell us when that flower is getting ready to die, or when that flower is getting ready to hit the peak of its growth spurt. So when we align ourselves with nature, we can also see that nature also aligns itself with the moon. And this helps us understand the rhythm, the song of the moon and the cycle that it operates in. And so I'm going to be touching on a few phases of the moon. I believe there are 7 in total, but I'm only going to be touching on, I believe, 5 phases, because these are the 5 phases that I work with, and these are the most common phases that you guys will see online and that you may feel called to work with. So the first phase I want to talk about is the new moon. Oftentimes we see a lot of people online doing magic under the new moon, because the new moon represents new beginnings. This magical phase provides a reset to where goals are renewed and we can set new intentions, and we can really kind of carve out the path for our next chapter. Farmers looked at this time as this cycle for planting seeds, which is what inspired my show called Planting Seeds on YouTube, because there was a cycle where I just wanted to plant seeds and allow God or the universe to water them. And so a lot of people like to utilize the new moon for magic, for new intention setting. I am not someone that believes in that. I believe the new moon is about intention setting, absolutely. But planting seeds doesn't necessarily mean magic. It means preparing yourself for this next chapter. And that involves developing new disciplines. That involves developing devotion and discipline within your practice. And so during this time, instead of doing magic, I highly recommend you all develop a strong prayer and meditation regimen, doing a spiritual bath, and calling on your ancestors to assist you along this new phase, this new chapter and new cycle. A lot of intention setting isn't about the magic you do, it's about preparing your physical and spiritual vessel for the next step. There is no point in doing magic for a new change if you yourself are not ready for the new change. And so new moons are about new beginnings. And when we're doing new things, the best way to really lean into that newness is by developing habits to prepare for that new thing. For example, if you want a new relationship, if you are someone that is interested in having a romantic partner, you need to prepare yourself for that romantic partner. You need to look at yourself and say, what character aspects of myself need improvement? What a part of me is agreeable or disagreeable? Am I an argumentative person? There's no point in calling in a new relationship if I myself am not ready or fit for a new relationship. And so we can see the new moon in that same aspect. It is calling in new things. It is setting new intentions. We're setting new intentions. It doesn't mean we're taking action on those intentions in a magical aspect. New moons should be utilized with practical actions. It's by taking those first steps. And so we are the seed in this cycle. And so if you want something new, you must prepare yourself for something new. So clean up your act, clean up your space, clean up your room, clean up your altar. This is a great time for cleansing work. And that's simply it. I'm not a fan of doing magic under the new moon, but that's me, right? You may feel differently and you may obtain different results. But the new moon, the cycle, the nature growth cycle is simply the seed. We're just planting those seeds, right? The next phase that we all know and love, which is the full moon, which is about completion. It's about fertility, abundance, transformation, and when the seeds from the new moon come into bloom. So we can view this as the harvest. This is when the new moon is about setting seeds, aligning ourselves and preparing ourselves for the next chapter. By the full moon, the harvest has occurred. There's no magic that necessarily needs to be done because it's finished. Everything is done. Now you can just enjoy the fruits of your labor. So I always recommend that in this cycle where nature's growth cycle is the flower, that means the flower has already come out of its budding and it is ready to just be. It's just embracing all of itself. And so I like to say under the new moon, don't do magic either. Gosh, I'm going completely like opposite to what everyone else says, but you should be being in this moment. There's nothing that you need to do, but enjoy who you are. And so I always recommend do a lot of self-love during this time. Be a lot more nurturing, treat yourself during this time, and enjoy the fruits of your labor in the full moon. Some people feel like it's a time of releasing during the new moon, during the full moon, that you should just be shedding yourself, and it's none of that. If you align yourself with nature, it's the flower. The flower isn't doing anything. The flower isn't cleaning itself out. The flower isn't dying in this moment. The flower isn't blooming. It just is. And so if you're someone that wants to align themselves with nature, just be who you are. If you're a bad bitch, just be a bad bitch and enjoy who you are in this moment. A lot of people confuse magic with trying to basically keep up with the Joneses. They get one thing and they're off to the next. And a lot of magic doesn't focus on just being and embracing who you are in your energetic body, in your physical body. And so what the new moon teaches us is just embrace that, embrace all that you are and all that is in this moment. And so that is the new moon. The next one is the half to full moon. I always confuse this. I believe this is the waning moon. I could be totally wrong. I always confuse the waning moon with the waxing moon, but this is when the moon is in its last cycle before it hits the full moon, right? It's in that last phase, and that usually happens in the morning when the moon, I believe, is in that half to full, and then by nighttime it's the full moon. Now, half to full moon represents us adjusting, reviewing, and taking control. So it's kind of seeing all the intentions we set in the new moon and seeing where we went wrong or where we need to have improvements in this cycle that we're in, and actually making those improvements. And so this is where we take our growth cycle or our goal setting very, very seriously. And so in nature, this is when the flower has leveled up from being the seed, and now it's budding. It's in its phase, it's in its process before it sprouts into being the flower. And so I like to say during this time is when I like to do magic, because this is when it's like make or break time. This is when I need to be taking action. This is when I need to be taking control of what it is that I seek for myself. The new moon, I was setting those goals. I was changing my habits. I was being mindful of what I said and did. In this half to full moon is when I'm taking action magically to be sure that I am in alignment at all times, that this is when I'm doing my hard hitting work. This is when all of my teachings I'm putting into practice and seeing, am I going to step up to the plate? So half to full moon is when I feel like people should be doing their magic. This is when you need to be getting in the gym and really doing the work, because the budding is where the plant is either going to be blossoming or it's going to be dying. The budding is where people oftentimes, when they have their own plants, they are overwatering them because they are so excited for them to bud that we either can do too much and kill the plant or do too little and the plant doesn't rise to its greatest capacity. And so during this time is when I always say you need to do magic. You need to be your most mindful and your most disciplined. So that is the half to full moon. Then we have our full to half moon. I think this one is waxing. You guys could correct me if I am wrong, but the full moon to waxing is when the full moon has already happened. It's when we've already reached our growth cycle of becoming the flower. And now that we're just being and we're just enjoying who we are as a flower being, now we're embracing the fruits. Now we are really seeing the harvest is when, all of your produce or all of your flowers have fully blossomed. And you really get to see all your hard work pay off. But the fruit of the harvest is when now you get to really enjoy your fruits. Now you get to go out into the field and pick your fruits and share your fruits with other people. During this time is when farmers usually take all their fruits and bring it to like the farmer's market, for example. So during the full moon, the half moon is when the full moon has already occurred, right? You've done all the work. You set your intentions at the new moon. During the half to full moon, you did the hard freaking work. By the full moon, you gave it to God and you're just being saying, I did all I can do and I'm seeing everything blossom from our hard work. And then by the full moon to half moon, you're sharing it with other people. You're loving on other people. You are giving this knowledge and this hard work that you have to other people. You gave a bit of it to yourself and now you're able to share with others. So the full moon, which I think is the waxing moon, the full moon to half moon is all about generosity. It's all about gratitude. It's all about sharing what you've learned along the way and passing it on to other people so that not only you are able to enjoy your hard work, but now other people are able to benefit from your hard work as well. Right. I love this cycle of the moon because it's really all about giving. And this is also where growth happens through sharing with other people. And the last one is the dark moon, which is like eclipse during this time. And this is the nature cycle of death and rebirth. This is like the womb where change is really occurring. And there's a lot of mystical aspects about the dark moon and about solar eclipses. And so during this cycle, nothing happens. Not nothing happens. Something's happening. Change is happening. Death is happening. Rebirth is happening. But we're not supposed to be necessarily doing anything. Sometimes the energy in the air is so sensitive that you're just supposed to just be in it because stuff is going to happen when the energy is sensitive, as we can see during Mercury retrograde. Usually ain't nobody doing nothing, ain't nobody doing magic, but the energy in the air is so sensitive that we're reacting naturally. And the same can be said for the dark moon. A lot of stuff is coming up during the dark moon. A lot of emotions can come up during the dark moon. A lot of energetic shifts are happening and deaths and rebirths are happening that we don't necessarily need to do anything because everything is already being done. Everything is done. So all you need to do during this time is sit back and watch your behaviors and watch how you feel and watch your character during this time. And that is the moon class. That is how herbs are connected to the moon. That is how we are connected to the moon and how our magic is affected in these moon cycles. And so that is the end of semester 1 of the Magical Herbalism Mentorship. I am so honored that you all have taken this journey with me for this first semester. I'm so proud of you all for all the hard work that you have put in, all the dedication and time you have put into your self-improvement. It has been a pleasure to have been your guidance counselor, your teacher. And this is just the beginning. And so I'm so grateful for you all. I love you all so dearly, so timelessly, so endlessly. And I am so proud of you. So thank you all for journeying with me this semester. And I hope to see you all in the next one. I love you all and take care. Okay, bye-bye now.